Hello again, welcome back. Here we are to finish up our weather app, and so far we've got the app working here. It's also working with the geolocation, not quite getting the weather data with geolocation, but it is running on localhost and it gets our coordinates, right? So our next step is to use that coordinate data to get the weather, okay? So I'm going to go back to the OpenWeatherMap API, and remember we looked in here and we saw, get weather by city ID, and there was one in here that was get weather by geographic coordinates, right? So let's copy this address right here. So essentially it looks just like the other one, but it has a latitude and a longitude property. So these are the two things that are different, right? So I'll just copy the whole thing, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my code here, and here we've got our success function that gets the latitude and longitude. And what I want to do is I want to pass it up to here, right? Okay. But right now we've got this other path here, right? So let's make a couple changes. So let's say we got this function get weather by zip, and why don't we add a new function here, right? So let's call it async function get weather by zip code, right? And what this function is going to do is it's going to generate the path like we see it here, and then pass it on to the get weather function. Okay. So let's copy this. I'm gonna cut those two lines out of there, right? And now it'll tell me like path is missing. I'm gonna define it up here. Okay. And then here it's telling me path is never used, right? So we'll put the zip code here and we'll get the API key. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call get weather, right? And pass in the path. So I'll include the path here as a parameter, and down here I'll pass the path in as a parameter, right? So if we do that, we should be able to call get weather by zip through our submit function. So I've got get weather by zip right here, and I'm going to scroll down and find my my form on submit, and instead of calling get weather right there, I'm going to call get weather by zip. Okay. And now if I type in the zip code here, let's test it, 94122, right? Oh, there we go. So I got 48 degrees, broken clouds, San Francisco, right? So that's working, okay? So we're going to call this, right? It's going to take us up to here. We're going to get our API key. We're going to get the path. We're going to put the path together with the API key and your zip code. Call the get weather method, pass the path into it, and then now we're going to fetch with that path, okay? So with that set up, we can now use this navigator.geolocation, right? So this is going to set up the geolocation, and on a success, because it takes some time for geolocation to figure out your location, right? So it doesn't happen immediately. So we need this callback to, call us back effectively, or resolve at some point in the future with the location data. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go up here to the success function, and I won't use any of this stuff right there, so I'm going to comment that out. But I do need the latitude and the longitude. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass those into a new function that I make at the top here. So let's say async function. I'm going to put this one underneath get weather by zip, but above get weather, right? So it'll go right in the middle here. I'll say get weather by location. How about that, right? And oops, let me spell it right. So there will be get weather by location, and I'll copy this stuff, right? and I'll paste it there. So I am kind of duplicating this line right there. So we could factor that out. That'll be a challenge for you. You can do that, right? So that's pretty close. Um, and what we want to do is we want to call get weather with the path here, but instead of getting the zip code, what we want to do is we want to use the path that they gave us here. So this looks exactly the same. You know, it's API open weather org data 2.5 weather question mark, and then it's lat and lon, right, instead of zip. So what we're going to do is I'm going to replace zip here with lat, right? And this will be, let's call that latitude. And then we'll do ampersand to add a new video. And then, or I said video, a new variable, right? So we'll do lon equals, and then I'll put the $, curly brackets, and lon, right, for longitude, okay? So now these two variables need to come from somewhere. So let's put them here as parameters. So I'll say latitude and longitude. So now we've got those taken care of. We'll build this path, and then we'll pass it to get weather, and then get weather will do all the work, just like it did before. Okay, so now we need to call this function with the latitude and longitude. So I'm going to copy the name of it here. So I'll just copy the name of that function. I'll scroll down to my success handler for my geolocation, and right here I'm going to call get weather by location, and then this was the latitude. So I'm going to put coordinate.latitude here, and this was the longitude. So I'll put coordinate.longitude here, okay? And then that should be good. And then we can actually get rid of all this, right? There we go. So now let's give that a try and see what happens here. So I'm gonna, I think let's do, oh wait, that's not a zip code. I'm trying to find a zip code that's not in my area. Wait, oh, city not. I need a good zip code. Is like 011, I think somewhere in New York. Wait, well, let's try this. Let's do 987. Wait, let's do 90210. How about that? So that should be LA, right? Yeah, Beverly Hills, right? Okay, so there we go. So that's not in my area. So now I'm going to get the location for my, or get the weather by my location. I'll click the button there. Oh, San Francisco, right? So that seemed to work. Okay. And then I got the weather down here. I can see it, right? So this was Beverly Hills, and this was San Francisco. Okay. So let's call that a wrap for this. And then what other challenges can we do here? So one, we could clean up the code a little bit, right? So my formatting here isn't that great. So that's one thing. You could also consider like renaming these functions here, right? We could also move these functions outside of our get weather, right? Now, if we do that, we run into a problem where this set data and set zip are only going to work inside this function. So you could pass them along as a parameter to make them work in an external function. You know, this part right here, we could refactor this so that this API key is not inside the function. It could be defined outside here, right? And then, you know, those are you know, interesting problems, but the more interesting problem is we could style this button, and we could style the data here and display more data. So there's like a whole bunch of things you can do with this. So feel free to expand on that, and then you know, put your notes in the comments, right? And maybe put a link to your completed app too if you want. Okay. So thanks for watching, and then I'll see you in our next video. Okay.